everyone, welcome back. We're going to do a cottage pie this week, so hopefully you should all enjoy it. We have a team of people here today, so Lawrence has very kindly prepared some of our vegetables that we're going to use. We've got some onion, carrot, celery, so the usual sort of holy trinity of veg that we use for lots of mince-based dishes. So this dish is a really great one as a sort of foundation dish that you can then turn into lots of different things. So you might use it for a bolognese, you might use it for a lasagna, you might use it for a chili, and you can sort of just adjust what you put in it a bit later. So today is the cottage pie. So in addition to those three vegetables, we've got some garlic, which has just been finely chopped. This little dish here, we've got some tomato puree, some plain flour, and some Worcestershire sauce, which we're going to put in a little bit later once we've cooked off the vegetables. The most important thing with this is to sweat those vegetables down for as long as possible so we can get the sweetness and the sort of development of flavour in there. So we'll season as we go, and then we're going to use some beef stock, so we're going to give you a little stock cube to use as well. And then the final thing is this leaf here, which I think you might have done in other recipes. So if you can remember what it is, top bonus points to you. But if you can't, this one is a bay leaf. And it's a great one for sort of flavouring things. You don't eat it, but it just lets its flavour sort of absorb into the sauce. So I've just got this pan heating over here. So I'm going to put in a good amount of olive oil. And then we're going to pop in all of our onions. Our carrots and our celery, and if you can see, Lawrence has chopped them all the same sort of size, and that's really important. You want to make sure that everything is a similar size, just so that it cooks at the same time as well. So in that goes. I'm not going to put the garlic in at this stage because it has a tendency to burn and we don't want any bitterness, so we're going to put that in a little bit later. So all I'm going to do is just pop a little bit of salt in there, and then we're going to sweat that down for about 15 to 20 minutes until the vegetables are really lovely and sweet. So give it a good stir, give it a couple of minutes on a sort of nice sort of medium to high heat, and then drop the temperature right down, so about 1 or 2 if you're using an induction hob, or sort of lower setting on your gas if you're using gas, and then just let it simmer down for as long as possible. So our veg is still sweating down quite nicely, but it still needs a bit longer. But to make use of the time whilst you're cooking, you can get the meat ready. So I'm just going to drop the temperature down on my vegetables to 2. And then in the frying pan, we're going to heat up a little bit of oil again. Get that sort of quite hot, and then you've got a pack of mince or 500 grams of mince. So what we're going to do is just fry this off in batches so that we can get a nice amount of colour on the meat. Which is really important. It's going to add flavour and colour. So you just want to take a section of your mince and then just break it up into sort of little pieces and just scatter that in the frying pan. Make sure you give your hands a really good wash afterwards, as you don't want to sort of cross-contaminate. So spread it in the pan, and then we're going to give our hands a wash and come back to it. So the mince is in our frying pan. We're going to give it a good season with some salt and some pepper. You'll start to hear it sizzling away. What we want to do is sort of break the meat down into really sort of small pieces and get a nice caramelization on that meat. So sort of just use your wooden spoon just to kind of crush it up a bit. So now the mince has got been completely broken down, but it hasn't got any caramelization yet. So I'm just going to leave it there just to sort of fry off. So if you put too much in the pan, you won't get that frying, you just get it sweating, which is why it's really important to do half the amount of meat. This has got about, I think, 15% fat in it. So fat does equal flavour, but we don't want too much. So you might find that you have to tip out of some of the fat a little bit later. So you'll just have to make a judgment call on that. So I don't know if you can hear that sizzle or see in there, but it's just starting to catch on the bottom, and that's good because we want to get that little bit of extra flavour going on. So all the sort of natural sugars in the meat will start to caramelise and get that lovely golden brown colour. So you can give it another stir once in a while. So you can see here how lovely and kind of crispy and golden that's gone. So we just want to take that batch out of the frying pan, pop it into a separate bowl, and then we'll do the other half of the mince in exactly the same way. And then we'll add all of the mince in to the sweated down vegetables a bit later. So the second half of the mince is now lovely and golden too. So I'm just going to add that into the same bowl that I put the other mince in. And on the bottom of this saucepan now is a lot of flavour. So some people would think that was burnt, but actually it's just sort of caramelised meat. So what we're going to do with that is we've got our measured out beef stock. So you're going to get given a stock cube, and you just need to measure out 400 mils of water. And if you just keep it on the heat and then just splash the stock into there, and then use your spoon just to scrape the bottom of that pan very carefully. It's just going to lift off all of that lovely flavour, which we do not want to miss. And then once it's all lovely, you can just turn the heat off, and that's going to make it really, really delicious. So back to our vegetables. So they're looking lovely and much, much more translucent in colour. And it's really lovely and soft and sweet now. So I'm going to add in the garlic and give that sort of a minute or so to cook. You can turn the heat back up at this stage. So I was on level 2, I'm going to turn it up again to number 5. Keep it moving and let that garlic sort of just sweat down. So in a minute, I'm going to add in all of that lovely beef, but just some of the fat would have sunk to the bottom, so just sort of lift the meat off without taking too much of the fat with it. And then that's just sort of our base meat sauce done. And then it's at that stage where you decide what you're going to make. So today for the cottage pie, we're going to put in the tomato puree and the flour and the Worcestershire sauce. If you were making a bolognese, you would add some chopped tomatoes, a bit of tomato puree and a little bit of water, and let that sort of cook down. If you were making a chili, you could put in some coriander, some cumin seeds ground up, maybe some cinnamon in there as well, and also some chopped tomatoes and a bit of beef stock. So it's a really great recipe to know how to do. So our garlic's had about a minute or so there. So I'm going to pop in the beef, reserving most of that sort of fat back. We don't want it greasy. And then give that a stir in. And then we're going to add in all of that paste which is in your plastic pot. The flour is just going to help thicken it, and then the other two ingredients are to add a lovely amount of flavour. So the tomato puree will add some sweetness, and the Worcestershire sauce, it kind of just gives it a really sort of savoury feel. There's a fifth sense that we talk about, which is umami, and it's got that sort of umami sort of flavour to it, which is really, really important. So cook off the paste for a couple of minutes, and then you can add in your beef stock, and then it's just a question of simmering it down after that stage. So we'll probably cook it for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then just see how we're going after that stage. Whilst that's happening, you can get your mashed potato on the go. So you want to peel some potatoes, cube them up into equal sized pieces, and then pop them into boiling water with a nice amount of salt. Boil until tender, and then you're going to mash with the butter and the milk that you're going to get as well. If you've got some nutmeg at home, you can put that in. We haven't put it in today because it kind of doesn't need it, but it will just give you that extra boost of flavour if you want it. So keep this on the move because the flour will start to stick at the bottom. It's already smelling really lovely. So I'm going to just pop in most of the beef stock. We might find that we don't need all of it, so I'm just going to put in about 3/4 of the beef stock. Just leave a little bit back just in case it gets too thick a bit later. Just so leave that to one side. Give that a stir up. Pop in your bay leaf and then leave to simmer. And that's already looking super delicious. kind of makes its own gravy, which is lovely. And then the sort of potatoes go really crispy on the top. What more do you want on a cold winter's day? Okay guys, so back to the cottage pie. So this has had about 30 minutes now. You can leave it for up to 45, but it's got a lovely sort of dark colour on it. You can see that it's still quite sort of loose. I ended up putting all of my stock in the end, but yours might be different, so just play it by ear. But you do want it to have a bit of liquid because it's going to carry on cooking with the potato on top. So the final thing that we're going to do is just take the bay leaf out of the dish, if I can find it, and then we're going to pop in the peas, and then we're going to, there it is. So take your bay leaf out, just pop it to one side. We've got some peas. This is optional, you don't have to put them in. Some people say it's traditional, some people say it's not, so it's personal preference, but I do feel like they add a lovely sort of colour and sweetness to the dish as well. You see that sort of vibrant green, which is lovely. You're going to get some tins like this to cook it in. So you want to fill this about half full with the mixture, and then you're going to top it with some potato, and then you want to just dollop the potato on the top of the pies. So you want to be quite generous with the potato, so you just want to sort of pat it down so that it reaches right to the edges. Sort of make sure it gets in all of those nooks and crannies. And the more peaks and sort of divots you can give it, the better. So if you can see there, I've got really nice amounts. So those top bits are going to go really crispy, and then you'll have that lovely soft buttery mashed potato underneath. So shimmy it around like that. And then you want to have an oven on at 180 degrees. And you're going to bake that for sort of 20 to 30 minutes until everything is bubbling and really crisp and golden on the top. So sometimes I put a baking tray just underneath the tins to stop any of the sort of liquids bubbling over the sides, and then you'll have to clean your oven. So that is our cottage pie made. So I do hope you enjoy it. Send us in your pictures of you doing it, and let us know how you get on. Bye!